All right, welcome back to Young, Wired, and Unmedicated. I'm your host, Lauren Ruggiero, and in this episode, we are talking about ADHD and burnout prevention and how to recognize signs before the crash. Okay, now, this is going to be an episode, okay? Buckle up, get ready, we're going to dive in. For anyone who has experienced burnout before, it is super annoying to the point where it is so disgustingly inconvenient. And as a creative, I have had burnout so much. And I've always wondered to myself, why do I have burnout so often compared to, I don't know, my girlfriend or my family, my brother, whatever. Like, they don't seem to get burnout, or they don't seem to, as often as I do. And the more that I learned about myself, the more that I learned that I have ADHD, the more that I'm like, oh, maybe this is a sign, right? That people with ADHD are more prone to having burnout. And that is mostly because we have lots of hobbies, if you will. We have lots of interests because we're always going from one thing to the next. We're never finishing something. We're always just moving on, going, and keep on going. And so when we focus on something for a while, we lose interest in it, therefore causing a lack of motivation, therefore causing burnout. So I literally just looked up, and it says, yes, individuals with ADHD are at a higher risk of experiencing burnout compared to the general population, potentially due to challenges and stress associated with managing ADHD symptoms. Increased stress and challenges, workplace issues, emotional toll, anxiety, all that stuff. Studies and statistics, up to 93% of individuals with ADHD experience burnout symptoms compared to only 30% of the general population. The risk of burnout is over 50% higher for people with ADHD. See, stats for you. So here's how I recognize burnout. And for people with ADHD, this can be in relationships, this can be in your work, this can be in your personal life, in your hobbies, whatever you like to do. This affects all, okay? This isn't just one area of your life. This is for your entire life, girl. This is it. This is, it's everywhere. It's implemented everywhere. So we're going to get down to, the business here. So how to recognize early signs of burnout? Well, that's pretty easy. In terms of, you got to focus on how you feel. And yes, we don't know how we feel half the time because we have dysregulation, okay? I get it. But you have to really focus in and hone down on what you're feeling in your body. Trust me, everyone with ADHD can feel everything in their body. So really focus on what you're actually feeling, okay? So it could be increased in irritability. So if you want to do something, you're like, ugh, I have to do this again. Or like, this is pissing me off. This is starting to bother me. This is starting to, if you get irritated really quickly, that could be a sign. If you have the lack of motivation, like, I'm not going to do that today, I'll do it tomorrow. Or, I'm supposed to do that, but I'll do something else and then I'll do it. If you have that lack of going, if it feels like you're going through the motion, like, that's a sign. Something needs to change here. Okay. And then obviously feeling overwhelmed, right? If you're like, oh my God, that's such a big task to do. I just don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do this laundry. And it's been sitting in the corner looking at me. This is a real life example, by the way. And I just don't have the energy to do it. Like, that's a sign of burnout. Listen to the sign. And if you have all three of them, girl, go get yourself a pool and dive in it. Recognizing some of these signs is crucial. Okay. Because then once you recognize these signs, like, hey, this is actually making me irritated, like, then you need to start zooming in and being like, okay, what actually is the root of this problem? What actually is something that I can fix? And when I mean fix is like, what can I change, right? Because if you're, getting irritated, if you have lack of motivation, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, all of these are just bad feelings, right? So we are trying to look into it a little bit more and figure out what it is you need to do in order to not feel that stuff. Because we're going to reject it. If we just feel it and don't do anything about it, we're going to start rejecting all of those things that we need to do, and then it's going to start creating problems in our life. So we need to zoom in, look at it, get aware of it, and start doing things to change it, to flip it, to make it better, okay? So something that I always feel like I get burnout in is a part-time job. So for years, I've always had a side part-time job whilst I was doing other jobs, or, if I was doing YouTube or whatever it may be. I always, on days that I had to work, I always felt like I was on this merry-go-round and every day was the same. And it was so boring, and I would just get so exhausted. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go to work today. Oh my God, I don't feel like it. And then you would just get in a mood, and then the mood would carry on with you to work, and then you would just feel out of it at work. And then it's literally a toilet bowl flushing effect. Okay. It's spinning out of control, and it's overwhelming, and you just hate it. And then you start to hate life, and then everything else in your life starts going downhill in the toilet because of that one thing. Because again, we don't know how to separate our emotions when it comes to life. So if one category in our life is failing, that affects every single other category in our life, right? So if our work is off, then our relationship's going to be off. Our, self-care is going to be off. Everything to do with anything is going to be off, because again, we cannot compartmentalize. Our brains just don't work that way. So we have to realize what is causing us the burning out feeling, or the irritability, the lack of motivation, the overwhelming feeling. Like, something needs to change if you're feeling that way and you have ADHD. Because, girl, don't let it sit and simmer, okay? Trust me, don't let it sit and simmer. So what I always did was I tried to switch something up. I would eat something different for lunch. I would walk a different way to work, or drive, whatever you means of transportation. I would do something different in the day, and that would keep me going. So that one little small change would help my brain be like, oh, okay, like, this is a different day. It's a new day. Like, we're going to do something different. It's going to be great. Like, it's fine, right? And that would prevent the burnout for a little while, until that got boring, and then I'd have to switch something else, right? Or you can switch something that you're doing in your personal life, right? So maybe you're not giving yourself 15 minutes before you go to bed to just relax and breathe and be with yourself, journal, whatever you need to do. And maybe you're just watching TV and then you fall asleep. Maybe you need to switch that. Maybe you need to take a shower before you go to bed. Maybe you need to take a shower in the morning. I don't know. Maybe you need to work out in the morning. Maybe that's what it is. Because exercising is great, right? So finding something that you can do that just keeps your attention enough to get you through that day. And then you just kind of have to keep figuring it out more every day if it continues to get boring and boring. That's just how I did it. And then eventually things will change. You apply for more jobs, you get a different job, so on and so forth. That's one way how I did it. Okay. Another thing to recognize these signs, and when you do, you need to know your needs, and you need to figure out how to give them to yourself. This is a big one. This is one that I just had a realization the other day about. Like, people with ADHD have specific needs. They're very specific. And the thing is that the only person that can get real specific is that person with ADHD. Like, only they know what they need and why they need it and how to get it. Well, maybe we don't know how to get it, but like, we need to figure out how to get it for ourselves. This is something that could have helped me. If I had this realization, if I had this awareness, this could have helped me in all of my past relationships. This could have helped me in friendships. This could have just listen, okay? You need to figure out what your needs are. Okay, and then ask yourself, so what do you need? Do you need more attention? Do you need more validation? Do you need more time for yourself? Do you need personal time? Do you need self-care time? Do you need exercise time? Like, what do you need? Get real down. Get a list. Girl, let me tell you, when I tell you get a journal, get a journal. That was aggressive. Anyway, but get down and like ask yourself, what do you really need? What do you need for your brain to change this, irritation or lack of motivation, right? So you need to ask yourself, what do I need? Why do I need it? Okay, how can I get it? And that's the second part, is you got to figure out how to give it to yourself. Because let's be honest, no matter how many times you ask people around you to give you what you need, they won't understand how much you need it, why you need it, or, sometimes they don't even know how to give you what you need. That's why I say do it yourself. Because, again, people with ADHD are very particular, because if you don't do it right, or if it's not the right way, we get angry. We start, and then everything just goes out the window because your needs were not being met. So you need to figure out how to give that to yourself. For an example, I didn't have friends. Still don't have friends, okay? And back when I was in my relationships, I needed a friend, okay? Because I've done a lot of journaling. I've done a lot of self-working on. I've done so much. And what I realized is, like, throughout all of my relationships and messiness and things like that, like, I needed a friend so that I can bounce ideas off of them. And I just needed, like, other human contact. That's what I needed. I didn't know how to get it from my partners, so I looked elsewhere. And that's what got me in trouble. So when you are finding these signs of burnout from people, from, your work, you need to find solutions before the universe wakes you up and slaps you right in the face. Just like that. Honk, honk. Wake up. Okay? So now what I do is, since I don't have very many friends, okay, and I don't have human contact, right, or my friends are elsewhere in the world, all around, I go on walks out in the city. I move myself to a city and I'm walking out in the city and I'm getting that human contact that I need, right? I'm walking down the city, I'm smelling, the cigarettes in the air, the pee on the sidewalk, the people walking by with smell like, Chanel or whatever, people dressed up, people dressed down, all kinds of stuff. Like, I'm getting that human contact that I need. And if I only knew what I knew, and if I only knew then what I know now, things would be a lot different. But, everything happens for a reason. So, but I'm here to tell you, okay, do this if you have ADHD, because when you give yourself what you need, everything ends up being a lot better than you not knowing what's going on or what you need. And then you start getting into stuff that the universe is going to slap you in the face about and be like, you're off track. Get your shit together. Get your shit straight, because this ain't it. And it will. It surely will. It will check you like into next week. Okay? Know your needs and how to give them to yourself. That is something that I really want to stress with this whole burnout thing and knowing the signs and things. Journal it out, figure it out, put it down on paper, make a list on the computer, something. It will save you time and hurt. I'm just saying. Another thing with burnout is you need to set realistic goals. And it's so crucial for people with ADHD because so often we get really stressed and overwhelmed by these big goals, right? I had this big goal of, moving to New York, getting rich and famous, getting the Raris, the gold chains, the money, the whole like blacked out aesthetic, And I got so overwhelmed by this. I moved to California. I went to Maine and, did a summer camp job, and then I moved to California. Totally out of the blue. Didn't know what I was going on, and it was really a totally unrealistic goal. Some of those goals, or some of that goal is still part of my goals now. However, that was a really big goal for me. That was a huge goal. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to start on it. I was going to get this, I was going to be a, big film director, and make it a Hollywood and, get the whole LA dream and, kicking it with the rock stars and having parties on the weekends. Like, I wanted that life. I did. I solely did. And I didn't know even where to start. I had zero clue of how to get into the industry, zero clue how to do any of it, to move someplace. I had no idea. So my point is, by setting realistic goals, which means small goals, okay, you can build off of those small goals. So what I did was, I saved. I went to California, did the whole California thing, and then I was like, I still want New York. Okay, can't afford New York, but what's close to New York? Philly. And now we reside in Philly. And now I don't even know if I want to go to New York, So again, dreams are up in the air. But setting those realistic goals are what you need to be doing. I had a goal to make money on YouTube and to do it full time. Again, big goal, unrealistic. It takes time. So I set a bunch of small goals, right? YouTube has like a thing you have to hit like 4,000 watch hours and you have to have, 1,000 subscribers or whatever. So I worked on that. I worked on those two things. And then I finally got paid. And, so we keep going. We're growing. We're doing it. Again, small goals is what we need because our brain cannot focus and comprehend on the big entirety of a huge goal. That's why I like lists, because the lists break it down into small steps to get to this overall goal of success or the idea of whatever you're trying to finish, the project, whatever. Setting small goals are much more achievable than big ones because our brains are more able to understand it and keep it in a consumable capacity. Okay. Another thing is self-care. This one's a big one for me because on a daily basis, I take regular breaks. Okay. If I'm editing all day, I take a break. When I'm done editing the first video and I have a few lined up, I take breaks. I go on a walk. I go eat lunch. I watch some YouTube. I take breaks, regular breaks. And even when I'm working, I still try to take breaks as much as possible, right? I'll take breaks. I'll call my girlfriend, I'll walk around, something so that I can mentally get out of what I'm doing for a second. Because it takes so much energy and focus to maintain focus for us. Like, we're very sporadic brained. Again, sitting down at a job and doing it for 12 hours is not how we work. So having those breaks is something that helps the burnout prevention, right? It helps just thinking about something else for a little bit. Okay, so schedule breaks, right? Another thing is like exercise. Exercise is so good for the brain. You don't even have to look up all the health benefits look up all the health benefits. Exercise is so beneficial for the brain and, your cardiovascular system. Literally, it's so good for thinking. And, as a creative, I get my best ideas when I'm walking around or, when I'm just thinking and running or, dancing, something to get your heart rate up. Exercise is something that's really, really beneficial for people with ADHD and also for people with not ADHD. Very good for the brain, and it gets those brain things flowing, and then you can start thinking fluidly, and you can breathe instead of everything being switching. You know what I mean? Maybe that's just how my brain works. I don't know. Hobbies. Having different hobbies is great because, again, it breaks it up. So, I have so many hobbies. My girlfriend is actually kind of jealous on how many hobbies I have. Like, I'll be playing guitar 1 minute, then I'll be going and making another YouTube video, then I'll be drawing, and then I'll be journaling, and then I'll be, writing a movie script. So I'm all over the place, right? Because I have all these different hobbies, and because I have all these different hobbies I get to switch through, I never get bored. I never burn out because I'm not doing that one thing for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So having a bunch of different hobbies is great. I also like to read. I'm doing reading, exercising, all that kind of stuff. So having a lot of hobbies, girl, get yourself some hobbies. What do you like to do? What do you want to do more of? I'm trying to learn Italian too. All of this stuff. I'm trying to do it all. But yeah, like, have a lot of hobbies because that way you can switch your brain into different activities and it prevents burnout from one certain thing at a time. So hobbies are great. Routines are also another thing. Calming routines, so like routines to go to bed, routines in the morning, routine at lunch. Having these routines is very recharging for our brains because it gives us time to relax our brains and think about something else, because that routine is so set in stone that we are on autopilot and we already are doing what we need to do in our routine. That gives us the mental free space to think about something else that we need to think about, whatever. And it's very relaxing to us. It helps us recharge. It helps us get a grip so we can keep going. Okay, so setting routines, getting really specific on the routines is something that's very beneficial, really great, helps a lot. It helps me. I get a morning routine, a night routine, an exercise routine. Not really an exercise routine, but I have a certain time that I go and I exercise. That's basically all the routines I have. I try not to have my whole day be a routine because then it gets really boring, like I said again. So then you have to switching and changing things. So, but yeah, I just do a few routines and then I'm good. Time management strategies also help burnout. And they also help with, the self-care and the realistic goals. So like, using timers for these, recharge breaks, setting reminders in your apps. So if you need to do something, set a reminder on your phone, reminder to do this. I do it all the time when I have to do things at work. My work is very specific, and if I don't do things on time, it'll like mess up a bunch of things later on down the road for me. So setting reminders is something that helps my brain because I can't think of everything all in one moment. Like, I can't remind myself that I have to do this and I have to do that. So by setting reminders on your phone, it tells you all of the things that you need to do. And it helps you to remember all the things you have to remember because we're very forgetful. These brains of ours, very forgetful. We think of a lot of things all at once. but we can't retain that for some reason. So reminder apps are crucial to our success as people with ADHD. Reminders, great for the brain. Also calendars. I like paper calendars. I like seeing it physically in front of me. But I also have my device and that's still physically in front of me. So calendars are great as well because it helps you to see what's going on in the week, what's going on in the month, so on and so forth. And it helps you maintain focus. So even if you get off task, right, you start setting up one thing and then you kind of just go into another thing. You're over here, a reminder on your phone to, oh yeah, I need to go do this for that setup. So then I go back to the setup. So it helps you stay on task and maintain that focus. These are some of the things that I have used in terms of, burnout prevention, especially the one where you have to know your needs and you need to know how to fulfill them. No one is coming to help you. Sorry to say it. No one's going to do it the right way that you want because only you know how to do that. And again, communication is also another thing that is really big. I know people with ADHD have a really hard time with communication because, again, our brains are working overtime. And when we are trying to communicate, we don't communicate words when we are trying to communicate because our brain is going so fast that our mouths don't have time to keep up with our brain. It's like when you're writing down something and then your brain is just like overwriting that and then you write down a sentence that doesn't make sense. That's how it is for when we're talking for people with ADHD. We just are not cohesive and it scares us because whenever we have to talk, it's scary because we have to, work overtime to make something cohesive. These podcasts for me are super hard. I have to have notes to remind myself, get back on the topic. So, communication is something that is so difficult for people with ADHD and even a lot of people as it is, so communication is something that you have to work on. You have to, in order to be successful at anything in your life ever. If you can't tell people how you feel, what you're going through, anything like that, it's going to make your life a lot harder. By learning some of these communication skills early on is something that will be so beneficial to you later. And also, this is a really important thing, especially if you are in a relationship. Dear God, please, 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 anyone who is in a relationship out there, please look up some communication skills and start acting on them. That is the number one thing that ends relationships, like 95% of the time. That's what it did for my relationships. Communication on both ends. I feel like this is going to be a whole nother podcast about communication and ADHD because it's so hard for us to keep friends because 9 times out of 10, we won't have time to text people because again, if you don't text us or you're not in front of us, we won't remember to text you at all. And so it just keeps going and it just never stops, And then I just start to think, if I knew then what I know now. And then that, gets into a really dark place. But otherwise, thank you all so much for tuning into this podcast. I hope that, this helps a little bit. Burnout is something that happens so often to people with ADHD and myself a lot. These are some of the ways I prevent it for myself. I hope it helps you. And if you have any different ones, please let me know in the comments, either Spotify, YouTube, whatever you're listening to this on. Let me know because maybe I might want to implement it into my little strategy, my little plan, But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. And I hope you guys have a really good day. And I'll see you guys next Sunday for another episode of Young, Wired, and Unmedicated. Peace out.